So I decided to make a video about the most recent work I've been making. This is kind of a new thing for me, showing and speaking with my actual face on a video, having to watch all them awkward facial and hand gestures back, but with the situation being as it is and social media space being the only real place to show the work, just felt like it were a good thing to do, really. The work is informed by the current situation, and speaking about it here is different from merely sharing an image of a work, so I'm uncertain what, if any, sort of response, comments, opinions I'm going to get. So I'm returning back to large scale drawing after losing faith in it some years back. I think I internalised a lot of received cultural criticism that it just wasn't a sound thing for in the early 21st century, as somebody who fits that description of white male heteronormative European, to be making visually formal artworks that made sweeping gestures, as my work tends to do. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I spent last year somewhat responding to this in a film-based work, which, although fictional, was very close to my own experiences of 21st century life and mental health, and very much in the hinterland of sweeping identity characterizations. Anyway, you can find that on my website, but back to the drawings. This new work is called a new Springer's Sprung, and it's largely a response to the situation of the past couple of months. The dominating imagery in this drawing takes its inspiration from the Yoruba symbol, the ancient symbol of the snake eating its own tail. And my understanding of Yorubas, of this symbol, is that it represents the cyclical patterns of life, and more than that, I understand it through the frame of recent human history being largely used as a reference to an inherent destructive nature, i.e. the wisdom that teaches that all civilizations become corrupted and collapse, all societies are naturally inclined towards inequality, injustice, warfare, and their eventual demise. This relates to another work I've been making over the past few years. In We Want to Live, another drawing I made, I tried to visualise the process of trauma-informed culture being passed down through time until we reach the point where we almost feel trapped inside of it on a global level, right down to a personal level, like being inside a Russian doll that is burning. A friend of mine, Ben, spoke a bit about how we, meaning human life, exist until we found like time travelling technologies in one-dimensional time. I think what he means by this is that we enter the future with only our past experiences to inform us. And with a new Springer sprung, burnt out husks of Eurobus precede the dominant current one in the picture. On this downward looking one-way landscape, the past in tragedy, upheaval, is projected into the present day. Look at our current situation and we see societies and technologies that exceed the capabilities of the past, yet we still arguably act out the traumas of our pasts onto our futures. So COVID-19 seems to be threatening to be a game changer to the way we organise global society and nation states alike, like nothing in living memory. There's no doubt that this is impacting on some far more than others, but the fact that these are pre-existing issues that are being further exposed, arguably, is very much why it is threatening to change the way things are. But with a new Springer sprung, I'm more interested, or at least more focusing more on the cyclical patterns that we are currently going through outside and everything, which is springtime, and the hopes and optimism that we seem to have almost wired into us to identify with the bloom of springtime really brings into focus what I call a dark optimism behind the seeming hopelessness of change in cyclical patterns. You see, although we know spring will lead to summer and will eventually arrive back in the deadness of winter, we still always place hope in spring that this time things will be different. The idea that spring is something that offers as a chance to see that whilst although we do live in cycles, that cycles can change and do not have to be dominated by many of the sad events that have dominated recent human history. Obviously, the COVID-19 lockdown has been experienced by everybody in disproportionate measures, but in spite of this, one thing it seems to be making clear is that we don't have to go back, or we shouldn't feel that we have to go back to the very same sort of social pattern cycles that seem to have been temporarily suspended. So although my work is quite dark and it functions at its best in kind of dark kind of imagery, trying to kind of find sort of kind of a dark optimism. Anyway, that's it basically.